Hello everybody, my name's Neil. I work for the Nantucket Conservation Foundation, and I'm here to create a video companion for our Evergreen Exploration Activity for the 2021 Nantucket Science Festival put on by Mariah Mitchell Association. We love the Mariah Mitchell Association. We're really happy to help contribute to all of their important work, educating the children of Nantucket about science and technology. And so this activity is meant to look at the ecology of Nantucket, and particularly one big part of Nantucket, the trees. So it's March, spring is right around the corner. All of those trees that have shed their leaves in the fall are getting ready to wake up. They're going to start to drink a bunch of water through their root system and put out brand new leaves. It takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of work for these trees to create new leaves. Sometimes they don't actually lose them. This oak tree is kind of held onto its leaves throughout the winter time, and that helps to protect all of the vulnerable little leaf buds that are about to spring out and into activity in the spring. We refer to trees that shed their leaves every fall or hold on to them and they just kind of shrivel up. We refer to these trees as deciduous. Can you say it with me? Deciduous. Nice. Good job. The other type of tree that we have on Nantucket never shed their leaves. They held on to them. And sometimes the leaves look a bit different. Sometimes they look like needles. Sometimes they're scaly and leathery. You know, they're not like the thin, tiny little leaves that you're used to seeing on the trees in summertime. And we refer to those trees, like this big spruce behind me, as an evergreen. An evergreen will keep its leaves or its needles throughout the winter time. And believe it or not, they're actually creating new energy even in the dead of winter. When everything else has kind of given up for the year, evergreens are still producing new energy and trying to survive throughout Nantucket's harsh winters. But why? Why do evergreens do this? Why do they hold on to their leaves or their needles all year round? Well, winter is a very dry time of year. And for a plant to create new leaves and new vegetation in the spring, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of water. Those deciduous trees wake up really thirsty, and they need to gulp a ton of water in order to create all that new fresh foliage for the year. But by holding on to their leaves and their needles throughout the wintertime, evergreen trees actually conserve a lot of energy. They conserve a lot of water too by holding it in those waxy leaves. Evergreen leaves are they're thicker, they're leatherier, they hold on to water a lot better. And today, I'm going to show you a little bit more about the evergreen trees of Nantucket, the ones you can find in your own backyard. So we are at the Nantucket Field Station at 180 Pulpus Road. This is actually a great place, really accessible, and a good spot to go see all three of these types of evergreen trees in one place. And right now we're in a little grove of our first evergreen. This is red cedar. As you can see from profile, a lot of these trees, they kind of have this lollipop shape to them, you know? They're bare. All these branches from the ground till about 5 feet up are bare of branches and bare of needles. And that's because the deer have been here. The deer really like to eat red cedar, particularly during the winter, because it tastes good to them. It's got some good chemicals in it. If you actually crush up some of these needles and give them a whiff, smells really nice. Kind of smells like a Christmas tree, or I think it smells kind of like oranges a little bit. But figure out what it smells like to you. So from a distance, they have that nice lollipop shape because the deer like to eat them. And as you get closer and you look at the needles themselves, they grow in these wiry little bunches. They're really scraggly. And as you get a lot closer, you can see that each of these little tips is a bunch of needles that are covered in scales. They're not single needles coming out. They're kind of growing in these nice tangly bunches. So that's a good characteristic to look for. They're pretty soft when you get up close and personal with them. And you also want to look for the type of fruit that they have. So cedars are coniferous, which means that they have cones, but their cones actually look very different. They look like little berries. So these blue-gray berries growing on the bunches are actually a type of modified cone. Another name for these types of cones is juniper berries, because red cedar is a type of juniper tree. So when you get up close to them and you break them open, there's a little seed on the inside, and it's protected by this blue-gray husk. And the husk is really fatty. It tastes pretty good, and that is because the birds love to eat it. They love to eat these juniper berries and distribute the seeds or bring the seeds from one place to another. Particularly in the wintertime, this is a great winter food for birds on Nantucket. And cedar trees do really well. They look very cool. If you go out to Cotu, they're really shaped by the wind. So there's a lot going on with this species on Nantucket, and it's one of my favorites. It's pretty identifiable. Look for those juniper berries. Look for these scaly needles growing in bunches, nice and soft. And don't forget, crush them between your fingers and give it a sniff. Ooh, I see a nice pine tree over there. Let's boogie. Okay, so here is our pine tree. This is a type of pitch pine. And as we get closer to it, we can see they look really fluffy at the top. Lots of needles on this. We get a little bit closer. Instead of growing in big scaly bunches, these are long, thin needles. And they grow on the branch in these tiny little bundles. Okay, see, they're kind of bound right at the bottom here, and that's where it attaches to the branch. These bundles are known as fascicles, and it's one way to help identify different types of pine trees. You can look at the number of needles growing in each little fascicle bundle along the branch, and it can tell you what species of pine you have. Pines are another type of coniferous tree. They keep their seeds in cones. Sometimes the cones look like this. They're really woody and opened up, but some cones are actually not ready yet. They're still closed. So you can see this cone is in transition. It's going from this nice closed up position, and some of those scales on the cone, they're nice and woody, are opening up. And a cone is a great adaptation for a tree to protect its seeds until the right time. So these cones like to open up at certain temperatures, and some species of birds and mammals like squirrels, they like to break open the woody cones and eat the outer shell so that they can get to those tasty little seeds inside. But pine trees, lots of them on Nantucket. There's a few different species, but you really want to look for these big, long, thin needles. They're growing in those little fascicle bundles that you can pull right off the branch, just like that. See that little fascicle? Whoop, there we go. And the cones. Don't get thrown off by the cones. Sometimes they can be open, and sometimes they can be nice and closed up. And you can see there's lots of cones on the ground right over here. So pine trees, nice, beautiful representative of some native species on the island. And oh, I see another type of tree right over here. Let's keep boogieing. Okay, so here it's a little backlit right now, but this is our holly tree. As we get a little bit closer to it, it's another great type of evergreen. One thing that stands out when we get close to this holly tree are these spines on this leaf. Ooh, let's see if I can focus in. There we go. Whoa, look at that. Oh, those are super sharp. Ouch, ouch, ouch. And because this is an evergreen, it's still producing some energy in the winter time. These big, broad leaves are very leathery. They're kind of thick. And those spines are a great defense from anything that wants to come up and eat this tree. They are really, if you were a deer and you took a chomp of that leaf, it would not be great. You'd need to go see a deer dentist pretty soon. It's poking me. So be careful when you get up close and personal with a holly tree. But these big leathery dark leaves stand out really well in the landscape in the wintertime. And unlike our pines and our cedars, these are actual leaves. These aren't needles. Another thing we look for with our holly trees is berries. Hollies put out these bright red berries that are very attractive for winter birds. I don't see any on this tree. That means that the birds have either stripped this holly tree completely, not even down low, or this is a male holly tree and it doesn't produce berries. It just focuses on producing pollen in the springtime. Another thing you can see, those spiny leaves have really helped protect the lower branches of this holly tree. If this was a cedar, all of this growth right up here, up to about 5 feet or so, would be eaten away. But you can see, actually, all of these leaves right down at the bottom are still really alive, really spiny, and not good for the deer to chomp on. So that's a really quick look at the three types of evergreens that we have growing on Nantucket. There's a few out there still that you may encounter, but with that, you should take a turn at surveying your own neighborhood and using that last page of the booklet to do your first botany survey, checking out your backyard and your street for these types of evergreens and anything else that's growing around you. Have fun.